From nothing to amazing success, discover the shocking truth of my family's unexpected demands. Emma Johnson stood in the middle of her cramped living room, surrounded by takeaway containers and crumpled receipts, the weight of her family's disapproval pressing down on her like a lead blanket. She was a 34-year-old waitress and retail clerk in Homerville, Ohio, wrangling two dead-end jobs, a son whose soccer practice threatened to swallow her evenings, and a mountain of unpaid bills. In the eyes of her parents, who endlessly celebrated her younger brother's academic achievements from their proud perches, she was a disappointment, an art school dropout chasing an elusive dream. Her phone buzzed, cutting through her thoughts. It was Leo, her 6-year-old son with his innocent enthusiasm, asking if they could paint together. She hesitated, a wave of guilt washing over her. Art felt like a ghost of her past, whispering reminders of what she used to love. "Not now, buddy," she said, forcing a smile, but inside, her heart crumpled like the takeout boxes scattered on the floor. As she tucked Leo into bed later that night, the moment felt heavy and tangible, filled with everything she wished she could provide him. Just then, her phone rang. It was an unknown number. With a sinking feeling, Emma answered. It was news that turned her world upside down. Her estranged grandmother, an artist celebrated in her youth, had passed away, leaving Emma her old, creaky studio, a relic of creativity locked away for too many years. "What could I possibly do with that?" she whispered, the question hanging in the air like a pending storm. A mix of shock and urgency propelled her to visit the studio the very next day. The musty scent of aged paint greeted her as she pushed the heavy door open, revealing spattered walls and canvases draped like ghosts. Each step inside echoed with buried memories. The thick atmosphere sparked long-suppressed dreams within her. Emma picked up a brush, her hand trembling, as she sketched the outline of what she felt. Yet, amid the thrill of creation arose a haunting chorus, her parents, their voices layered with doubt, warning her against chasing dreams that had already withered away. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The day she learned about an opportunity to showcase her work at the local gallery, a mix of excitement and fear crashed over her like a tidal wave. She could almost hear her father's voice. "Don't do anything that could reflect poorly on our family." The pressure felt suffocating. Emma dashed through unfinished pieces, feeling the ache of expectation wrap around her, squeezing tighter with every brushstroke. The night of the gallery opening approached, the air thick with impending judgment. Friends buzzed with anticipation, while her family lingered in the shadows, skepticism etched across their faces. Emma's heart raced, her breath uneven, as she prepared for the moment that could either be her redemption or disaster. She spotted a long-lost friend in the crowd, someone who once believed in her dreams, a beacon among doubters. Caught in the whirlwind of anxious thoughts, Emma faced a choice that would define her life. Would she muster the courage to embrace her passion or buckle under the weight of expectation? The tension swelled within her, leaving the outcome uncertain, as she braced herself for the revealing of her true self, the story she was only beginning to write. With the gallery opening looming, Emma stood frozen before her canvas, her mind racing with conflicting thoughts. Each stroke of color felt both liberating and suffocating, the weight of expectation pulling her back like an anchor. She had spent the last week perfecting her pieces, but the closer she got to unveiling them, the more she felt the creeping shadow of self-doubt. She peered deeper into her artwork, brush in hand, searching for the passion that used to flow so effortlessly in her veins. The ghosts of her parents' disapproval loomed large, and their voices echoed in her mind like a relentless chant that drowned out her confidence. "You'll embarrass yourself. What will people think?" In that chaotic moment, a realization struck her like a lightning bolt. Their voices only held power if she allowed them to control her narrative. Emma inhaled deeply, much like her grandmother must have before painting her masterpiece. With determination swirling within her, she picked up the brush again, this time with renewed purpose. There was more than just paint on this canvas. There was hope, vulnerability, and a fragile thread of ambition that she had long thought had frayed beyond repair. The hours slipped away as she poured every ounce of her conflicted emotions into the creations. Each color, each line was an exploration of her identity, who she was and who she aspired to become. The studio transformed into her sanctuary, a space where self-judgment began to dissolve into clarity. She could feel it, the spark returning, igniting that distant flame of creativity once more. But as the night approached and the shadows narrowed, a familiar knot of anxiety tightened in her stomach. She knew that showing her art meant unveiling her very soul to the world. What if it was ridiculed? What if her parents turned their backs completely? The weight of those questions lingered as she prepared herself. The gallery buzzed with energy the moment she arrived. Friends greeted her with smiles, but there was still a lump in her throat that threatened to stifle her spirit. She scanned the room, desperate for validation, but it was fleeting. Her parents hadn't arrived, and with every tick of the clock, the initial glow of excitement began to dull, replaced by creeping disappointment. As guests gathered around her pieces, Emma felt exposed, her heart racing while she stood helpless in the background. Just when she thought she might regret putting herself out there, a friend approached, eyes shimmering with enthusiasm. "Emma, this work is incredible. You've really captured something profound here." The compliment barely registered. She felt the need for family approval clawing at her insides. She turned to catch sight of her parents entering the gallery, their expressions unreadable. Her breath hitched. The moment of truth was approaching. It would either be a leap forward or a painful setback. Gathering every ounce of courage, she walked toward them, trepidation mingling with a daring heartbeat. "What do you think?" she asked, the vulnerability lacing her tone. They studied her artwork in silence, the air heavy with unspoken judgments. The moment stretched thin, suffocating in its intensity. Would they finally see her, or would this be yet another reminder of the gap she felt between them? Just as she prepared for any reaction, the gallery manager announced a spotlight on a particular piece, the very essence of her struggle and triumph. As the crowd's whispers permeated her thoughts, Emma gazed back at her parents, awaiting their long-awaited response. Would they accept her for the artist she was becoming, or would doubt snuff out her flickering flame? The uncertainty loomed like a tempest, ready to consume them all. And there, in that crucial moment, she recognized this was not just about the acceptance of her art. It was a confrontation with her own self-worth, a chance to choose her own identity over the shadows of their expectations. But what came next would change everything. Would Emma emerge stronger, or would her journey falter again at the feet of those she sought approval from most? As Emma stood before her artwork, her heart thudding against her ribcage, a mixture of fear and determination surged within her. The spotlight glinted off her canvas, illuminating the raw emotion she had laid bare with each stroke. Yet all she could focus on was her parents' unreadable expressions. Time felt interminable, as if every second dragged itself through molasses. She searched her faces, desperate for a flicker of pride or acknowledgement. Finally bracing herself, Emma stepped forward, ready to confront the weight she had carried for so long. "What do you think?" There was a tremor in her voice, a vulnerability she could no longer mask. She was not just seeking their approval, but an affirmation of her existence as an artist. Her mother glanced at her father. The corner of his mouth twitched, but didn't yield any assurance. "It's different," her father finally said, his tone flat, lacking in enthusiasm. Right there, in that charged moment, Emma felt something inside her shift. The words cut deeper than any critique of her work. They were more than just a dismissal. They threatened to unravel the newfound sense of self she was struggling so fiercely to hold on to. As she stepped back, uncertainty coiled tighter around her heart. Emma had reached the pinnacle of artistic aspiration, yet here she was, questioned and belittled by the very people she yearned to impress. The elation of her completion was smothered by their indifference. In response, something fierce ignited within her. She realized that the concept of worthiness she had internalized since childhood was due for a reckoning. "I didn't create this for you," she said, the tendrils of newfound confidence wrapping firmly around her. The murmurs around her swelled, heads turned, and eyes widened in surprise. For the first time, the vulnerable artist was finding her voice. "This is my expression, my journey. This is my truth." The weight of her words echoed through the gallery as a stunned silence enveloped the air. Emma could feel not just the eyes of her parents, but the entangled gazes of the crowd assessing the drama unfolding before them. Awareness wrapped around her, as did realization. She had spent years molding her identity to fit the narrow definitions set forth by her family, conforming to their expectations in a desperate attempt to gain their approval. Now, she was finally experiencing clarity. Her art was hers alone. It was the purity of her soul bared for the world to see. Each heartbeat thrummed louder in her ears as she turned back to the painting that had encapsulated her struggle. No longer was she chained to her parents' approval, or anyone else's for that matter. She breathed deeply, letting the fear meld into determination. A voice sliced through the silence, breaking her reverie. "You're more than what they think of you, Emma. You're brilliant." Her friend's words were like a lifeline, pulling her from the brink of despair. They settled around her like a warm embrace, light against the shadow. Emma looked out at the patrons who had been captivated by her work, people whose validation felt distinct and grounded in admiration, not obligation. The shift was palpable, and it begged the lingering question: what would follow after this newfound strength, and how far could her creativity lead her? Steeling herself, Emma turned back to her parents. "I'm choosing to embrace who I am, as an artist and as a person. If you can't support that, I can't change for you anymore." The room's tension was electric. As she awaited her parents' reaction, Emma stood firmly in her choice, resilient in her emerging identity. But before she could contemplate what their reply might mean for her future, a stranger approached her, eyes alight with admiration. "I can't help but feel inspired by your work. Would you consider collaborating on something bigger?" In that moment, Emma realized it wasn't just about facing her parents, but about seizing her potential. What lay ahead was untold, but it promised growth. And yet, with that excitement came the uncertainty of this unexpected opportunity. Would she follow this path, or would the shadows from her past drag her back down? As she contemplated the unfolding possibilities, she felt her heart race once more, not from fear, but thrill. This was only the beginning, and the canvas of her life was still waiting for more. The murmurs swirling around Emma began to settle as she turned her attention to the stranger who had approached her, the electric buzz of anticipation trailing in her wake. His gaze was steady, filled with an earnest admiration that momentarily redirected her thoughts from her parents' distant expressions. This was a moment again, a doorway she hadn't anticipated, and yet, paradoxically, it felt like coming home. "What do you have in mind?" she asked, her voice steadier than she felt. The tremor of anxiety had stilled into something purposeful. Each word that left her mouth was now a step away from the expectations that had suffocated her for so long.
The stranger, Julian, as he introduced himself, rattled off ideas with a passion that ignited something in her. He spoke of transforming her emotional rawness into a series of exhibitions that challenged societal norms. The energy he projected was contagious, and for the first time in her life, she felt a shiver of possibility that extended beyond the boundaries her upbringing had set. However, a voice deep inside her whispered of doubt. Could she collaborate with someone when her identity still felt fragile? Would diving into a partnership with Julian demand compromises she wasn't ready to make? She recalled how her parents had sought to shape her art into something palatable, easily digestible, and she shivered at the thought of replicating that dynamic. Emma blinked, temporarily lost in the chaos of her internal battle. A stark realization clawed at the edges of her consciousness. She was standing at a crossroads, and every choice going forward had to be a testament to her own wants and needs, not someone else's expectations. "You know," Julian said, sensing her hesitation, "art is about growth, too. It's about pushing boundaries and expanding horizons. It's not always about what others want from you. It's about what you need to express." His words resonated within her. She considered the painting that had sparked this moment, the way it had flowed from her mind onto the canvas, a true reflection of her struggles. What if partnering with Julian was an opportunity to expand her artistic lexicon and to evolve? What if we experiment with mixed media?
Emma suggested, surprising even herself. Utilizing different textures, interactive elements. I want it to be immersive, something that speaks to the audience beyond mere visuals. The ideas surged, wild and unshackled. Emboldened by her own creativity, Emma felt the weight of self-doubt begin to dissipate. But with this breakthrough followed a new layer of uncertainty. Would her vision align with Julian's? Could they collaborate without losing her voice in the process? While they exchanged ideas, she noticed her parents still lingering at the edge of the gallery, their expressions shifting from disinterest to concern. It was a strange sight, seeing those who once defined her liberate her, momentarily, yet it unleashed a pang of unresolved emotional conflict. Was she ready to confront their expectations head-on again? The conversation with Julian continued, and with each passing moment, the flicker of her confidence ignited into a flame. They discussed frameworks, themes, and most importantly, the narrative she wanted to craft through their collaboration. She envisioned not just simple art pieces, but immersive experiences that echoed her inner conflicts and triumphs. But then Emma caught her mother's gaze again. There was the hint of disappointment hidden behind feigned interest, a lingering need for Emma to conform to the version of herself that fit their expectations. The heaviness in her chest returned, mingling with the exhilaration of newfound ambition. "Emma," Julian said, pulling her focus back, "are you all right? You seem distant." She realized then that the path she was embarking on was riddled with choices that could either reinforce her newfound identity or shatter it in ways she hadn't anticipated. "Yeah, I'm okay," she replied, forcing a smile. "Just thinking about how far I've come and how much further I want to go." But the heaviness lingered, unyielding and persistent. As Julian proposed they get started immediately, Emma faced a choice: dive into this collaboration and risk losing control of her artistic vision, or retreat to the familiar shadows of her parents' expectations. The tension built as the reality of her decision pressed upon her. With every passing second, she was reminded that the journey ahead was fraught with challenges. But this time, they were her challenges, her choices, and her growth. And deep in her heart, she questioned whether she truly had the strength to stake her claim on the world and truly redefine what success meant for her. The time had come to face not just her parents, but the very fabric of her beliefs. How long could she balance between the two worlds? Emma's heart pounded as she prepared to make her choice, knowing that this moment could determine everything about who she would become. Would she break free for good and embrace her truth? Or were the shadows destined to loom large once again? With Julian's enthusiasm pervading the air, Emma's mind whirled at the precipice of transformation. Her heart raced at the thought of pursuing her visions, yet the familiar tug of familial expectations anchored her thoughts back. The shadows of doubt crept into her newly kindled ambitions. She was on the cusp of creation, but how much was she willing to yield to fear? "Emma," Julian began again, breaking through her reverie, "let's sketch out a proposal together. I want your voice to lead this. We're partners in this, not just collaborators." A thread of assurance nestled into her chest, but it was quickly overshadowed by the urgency of choices that lay ahead. "Okay," she replied, feeling both excitement and trepidation collide within her. They moved to a small table, where sketches became a collage of intense colors and textures, a tapestry of feelings ready to burst forth. She could lay bare her emotions, revealing layers of vulnerability that had been held captive for so long. Yet, even as the ideas flowed, her thoughts veered back towards her parents, lingering like uninvited guests. The fierce expectations that once guided her choices began to rear their heads once more. Questions spinning in her mind grew louder. Would they accept this new direction? Would they even care about her art if it didn't fit their mold? "Emma," Julian's voice tempered her whirlwind. "What are your thoughts? You've gone quiet again." Embarrassment flushed her cheeks. "I want this to be raw and impactful, but what if it's not enough for my parents?" The shame of admitting her preoccupation with their approval gnawed at her, but the admission felt almost liberating. A soft smile crossed Julian's face. "Forget about their standards for now. This is your moment to explore who you are as an artist. The rest will follow. Would you rather hold back and please them, or forge ahead and discover a new path?" The challenge ignited a spark within her, but right at that moment, she looked to the side and saw her parents once more. Her mother's subtle frown etched deep with disappointment, her father's crossed arms a fortress of disapproval. The sight sent a fresh wave of anxiety crashing over her creative flow. "Take a deep breath," Julian encouraged as he noticed her falter. "Let the fear push you instead of hold you back. Your art can be the vehicle for your truth." Emma inhaled deeply, pushing through the turmoil, forcing out the heavy air within her lungs. What if this choice, this collaboration, was her path to confronting not just her family, but the entirety of what had held her back? What if this was a chance to declare her identity unapologetically? "I want to strip away the layers," she said slowly, her voice gaining strength. "I want this exhibition to challenge, to provoke thought, to be an experience. We must showcase not just who I've been, but who I can become." In Julian's eyes, she saw a reflection of her own growing confidence. They began brainstorming with renewed passion, the initial uncertainty morphing into a thrilling concoction of ideas that could dismantle conventions while inviting audiences into her world. For the first time in ages, Emma saw glimpses of herself that didn't depend on anyone's validation. She felt emancipation swimming through her veins, daring her to take the plunge. But as exhilaration enveloped her, an unsettling thought festered. What if this step forward ignited the fiercest backlash from her parents? Emma's heart pounded in her chest, resonating with the clashing hopes and fears that circled around her aspirations. Break this pattern? The journey needed to begin within herself, but would she falter when faced with the gravity of external judgment? Just as the possibilities seemed endless, a new sense of fear emerged, a question that needed answering. Could she advance with unyielding resolve despite knowing her family would likely not embrace her audacity? The air felt electric as the weight of her decision loomed larger. Emma inhaled sharply, adrenaline surging, ready to move forward into a territory charged with both risk and liberation. But this leap required stakes she wasn't fully certain she could pay. What if the road she chose led to conflict, confrontation, and confrontation, stirring demons she had avoided? The creeping doubt clawed at her resolve as Julian continued to sketch. She had come this far, yet the fear of regression tightened its grip.
Emma clenched her jaw, wrestling internally. Would she embrace her audacity and risk her family's disapproval, or retreat once more into the shadows, letting the expectations bind her creativity? The moment of truth was nigh. She felt her pulse race. What decision would illuminate her path amidst the swirling fog of self-doubt? Emma's hands trembled slightly as she placed her pencil down, the pointed tip barely grazing the textured surface of the sketchpad. A vibrant swirl of colors reflected her conflicting emotions, each stroke a testament to her uncharted aspirations and the inescapable weight of her familial expectations. Before her lay a universe of possibility, yet each possibility came shackled with the reality of what had been ingrained in her since childhood. "Let's take a break," Julian suggested, sensing her tension. He stretched, his casual demeanor a stark contrast to the tumult weaving through her mind. She nodded, but her focus drifted outside the window, where the sun bathed the streets in a warm glow. Nature's simplicity infused her with a momentary calm, but it wasn't long before the heaviness of thoughts returned, particularly a narrative that had been recited too many times. What if you fail? Where would that leave you? Emma shifted, the guilt of her ambitions clashing with the imagined disappointment of her parents. They had cultivated a notion of success for her, a script she had trudged through all these years. Yet now, as the vibrant colors of her passion began spilling into her work, that script felt suffocating. She couldn't dismiss it, nor could she fully embrace it. The duality was a fracture within her resolve. "Can I ask you something, Julian?" she began tentatively, her voice veering into the uncertain. "What if my parents don't accept this part of me? What if they resent me for it?" A contemplative silence hung between them. Julian leaned back, crossing his arms thoughtfully. "What matters more, Emma? Their acceptance or your truth?" The simplicity of the question struck her. It was a compass pointing unerringly towards a daunting direction she hadn't fully acknowledged. "I want to be true to myself, but the price?" Splitting her focus between the fears of familial rejection and artistic exploration stirred a fierce battle within her. They've always set the standards for what a good life looks like. What if I'm stepping outside of that? Are they the ones creating your art? He countered gently, but firmly. The question penetrated deep. No, they weren't creating her art. The pulsating inspiration within her was a raw, unfiltered embodiment of her truth. It was distinctly hers and reeking with the scent of unapologetic authenticity. But pushing the boundaries could absolutely result in a backlash she couldn't foresee. As she took that thought in, her stomach tightened and her heart raced. "Then why am I still tethered to their approval?" she asked, meaning more than the words implied. "Because it's what you've been conditioned to believe. But you need to uncover who you are beyond that. This is more than just about art. This is about reclaiming your narrative." Julian's gaze burned through her uncertainty. Emma turned the thought over in her mind. Reclaiming her narrative. The three words echoed with the promise of freedom. But amidst that excitement plummeted another wave of dread. What if her attempt at self-reclamation led to the loss of both family and security? "Does that mean I have to reject them entirely?" she whispered, haunted by the idea. "No, it means you redefine who you are in their presence," he responded with a certainty that kindled a flicker of hope in her heart. As the conversation shifted toward the practicalities of the exhibition, a sense of challenge emerged. This wasn't merely about showing her artwork. This was the crucible for her identity. "Let's make this a true representation of who you are, Emma," Julian urged, his enthusiasm infectious as they slipped back into brainstorming mode. Ideas flared like fireworks in her mind. Each concept was a piece of her past merging with the present, crafting a vision bound not by external approval, but by her desire to share her story. But with inspiration came the immutable truth. Her parents still loomed large. The thoughts their reactions haunted her sketches. Did she truly have the fortitude to face them, faced with the reality painted in her colors, not theirs? A shadow slid across the table, pulling her back. "What are you thinking?" Julian asked, a probing yet gentle expression framing his features. She hesitated, the gravity of her choice sinking in as a profound realization crystallized. Her decision went beyond expressing her art. It was about projecting her essence. But carrying that essence into the crosshairs of disapproval would require resilience. Could she withstand the potential fallout and still emerge intact? The pull of familial loyalty warred against the necessity of self-expression, and she feared she stood on a precipice of her own making. Emma inhaled deeply, steeling herself. In reclaiming her narrative, could she dig deep enough to confront her fears head-on? "Julian, what if this isn't just an exhibition?" she finally voiced, a newfound determination threading into her words. "What if this is a declaration?" A glint of excitement sparked in Julian's eyes. "What are you planning?" As dread coiled with exhilaration within her, Emma realized she was ready to prepare for battle, not just against her fears, but against the expectations that lurked in her past. The time had come to embrace the complexity of her identity and share it boldly with the world. But with each step toward this bold declaration, what would be the fallout? The walls of her envisioned gallery began to take shape, promising to hold the weight of both her art and the truths she dared to unveil. As she gazed at the sketches, she sensed the emergence of her path. But what lay ahead was not merely a showcase, but a confrontation that could irrevocably alter her relationship with her family. Emma felt her pulse quicken. She was entering uncharted territory, and the next step required more than courage. It demanded a confrontation with the very essence of who she was and how far she was willing to go. What awaited her behind that threshold? The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across Emma's workspace as she gathered her thoughts. The remnants of doubt still lingered, but beneath them simmered a burgeoning sense of purpose. She ruminated on Julian's words. Redefining herself in her parents' presence was a challenge that resonated on a personal level. But could she really step away from their shadow and carve out her own narrative? With the exhibition approaching, her sketches transformed from mere exploration to profound declarations, each line carrying the weight of her evolution. What started as a means of self-expression was becoming a battleground for her deeper fears and desires. She glanced at her sketchpad, filled with vibrant outlines and vivid colors that beckoned her to break free from the confines of her upbringing. Every brushstroke was a whisper of her truth, daring her to confront the ghosts that had followed her for too long. "Emma, let's focus on the pieces that speak most to you," Julian suggested as he sifted through her drawings.
His presence was a continued source of solid ground amid her stormy emotions. She welcomed the constructive critique, using it as a lens to sift through her multitude of ideas. As Julian pointed out the raw emotion captured in a particular piece, Emma felt an electrifying pull. This was the art she wanted to present to the world. But as the excitement built, the inevitable wave of trepidation washed over her. What if her work, so intimate and personal, became a mirror reflecting back their disapproval? Recognizing her fear, she realized it was a catalyst for something greater, transformation. The moment she accepted that this display was not simply about her artistic ability, but about her identity, the stakes felt higher. "Let's push the boundaries of your vision," Julian encouraged, noticing her hesitation. "You can't hold back now. This exhibition is your declaration, remember?" With a deep breath, she committed to centering the narrative in her art around her journey, not just the external struggle with her family's expectations, but also her internal conflict, her growth, and her longing for acceptance of her authentic self. Each piece would reflect her past, yet emphasize her evolving identity, a true reclamation. Days turned into nights as she lost herself in this newfound determination.
The sketchpad felt like an extension of her being, each design telling a story she had long battled to vocalize. And as she labored over each canvas, a profound revelation began to unfurl. The fear that had paralyzed her was part of the very truth she sought to express. If she could harness that fear and mingle it with her creative vision, she could forge a connection with her audience, real people grappling with their own expectations and truths. But late nights came with fatigue, and fatigue birthed complacency. There were moments she nearly succumbed to doubt again, questioning the timeliness of her resolve. The whispers of, "What if this isn't enough?" crept in, unsettling her focus. Still, in those moments of darkness, Julian's questions echoed in her mind. What matters more, their acceptance or your truth? Empowered, she immersed herself deeper into her sketches, determined to weave those haunting fears into her work, resilience born from rejection. Emma envisioned how her parents would react, the weight of their expectations colliding with her transformative expression. Would they scorn or embrace her? Would they understand her journey, or would they see only the divergence from their narrative? With clarity, she crafted pieces that reflected her past while embodying her growth. Each painting was a dialogue against the silence she had often felt within herself. She began to plan how she would reveal this chapter of her life, anticipating a dual reaction, a celebration of her creativity and an unearthing of familial tension. A confrontation loomed on the horizon, pulling her forward, yet coaxing her to contemplate her next steps carefully.
"What if they don't see me?" Emma whispered to herself one evening, contemplating the delicate balance between creation and confrontation. But in that moment of vulnerability, a sliver of resolve ignited. Her heart raced. She had the chance not just to display her art, but to assert her independence. This is my voice. With renewed assurance, Emma concluded the last piece, a vivid portrayal of her struggles and triumphs, catharsis captured in the canvas. She stared at the glowing collection before her, still unrefined, but resonating with her essence. The looming question remained, could she truly challenge her past while forging her own path? As she layered on the final brushstrokes, she felt the anticipation of a storm inching closer. The exhibition represented not just an artistic milestone, but a defining moment. The world outside awaited her, and so did the complex tapestry of her family's reactions. Could she indeed stand tall and proud, ready to unveil both her art and her true self? The weight of her decision began to settle in, and Emma realized that what she faced next was not merely about acceptance, but liberation. It was a step away from the prison of expectation and toward the exploration of her unfiltered identity. As Emma stepped back to admire her work, she felt the pulse of her journey thumping loudly in her chest. The moment was the precipice of all or nothing. What awaited her at the intersection of creativity and reality? As the days crept closer to the exhibition, the atmosphere in Emma's studio grew electric with unspoken possibilities. Each canvas, now a kaleidoscope of emotions and stories, demanded her full attention. The transformation from self-doubt to self-assertion ignited a fire within her, but alongside the exhilaration shimmered a trepidation she couldn't shake off. It was as if the walls herself loomed higher with the pressure of what was about to unfold. She stopped to examine one particular piece, a vibrant swirl of colors depicting her frayed connection with her parents, the chaos lingering just beneath the surface. The paint was still wet, much like the rawness of the feeling she dared to confront. Yet somewhere in her mind, an unsettling question reemerged. What if this wasn't just about her? What if her truth tore the fragile fabric of her familial ties, exposing them to judgment? Julian had encouraged her to push beyond the comfort zone, to plunge into the depths of her narrative, but Emma grappled with the wisdom of his advice. She began to question her own resolve. Had she truly evolved, or was she merely idolizing her potential?
The echoes of her past pushed up against the canvas of her present, forming a tension she couldn't ignore. One evening, as she sipped a cooling cup of tea, Emma found herself pacing the floor, contemplating her approach. How much vulnerability was too much? Would revealing these intricate layers of her identity dismantle her family entirely? Or was it the key to mending their bond? Anxiety twisted in her stomach, nudging her toward an impulsive decision to reach out to them before the exhibition. If she could articulate her perspective, perhaps they could prepare for her unveiling, creating space for dialogue instead of confrontation. But the mere thought of initiating that conversation petrified her. What if they dismissed her efforts? What if they failed to recognize her truth as legitimate? Rallying the nerve, she pulled out her phone, hovering over their contact information like a general about to deploy troops. She hesitated before finally typing a message, pouring her heart into the text. "Can we talk? I want to share something important." After hitting send, she felt a freshly minted dread seep through her. What repercussions awaited her? Would this decision afford her the liberation she craved? Or would it lead to a confrontation that would unravel everything she had worked so hard to reclaim? The wait for their response felt eternal, each passing minute taunting her resolve. Suddenly, the buzz of her phone broke the suffocating silence, a single message lighting up the screen. When? It was terse, lacking warmth, and the coldness felt like a bucket of ice water over her burgeoning porridge. Within her chest, hope collided with apprehension. Their response signals a commitment she wasn't entirely ready for. Sitting down in front of her easel, she faced her canvases, each piece echoing its own fragmented story, tethered to her experience. Could they understand that the art was an extension of herself, a portrayal of her life's narrative stitched together from pieces they might not recognize? As she fought against the swelling doubts, Emma became aware of a deeper layer of her struggle. This wasn't simply about making art. It was about reclaiming her narrative, disentangling herself from narratives imposed by those she loved. If this journey were indeed about liberation, then it demanded confrontation, not only with her family, but within herself. With a shaky breath, she picked up her brushes again, the movements more determined this time. Each stroke felt empowering, a bold push against the tide of fear that had held her down for so long. She wouldn't allow her past to dictate the outcome anymore. This was a decision fueled by her newfound strength. Yet, with her parents' answers pending, the storm of emotions swirled within. What if the revelation of her identity through art became a battlefield for misunderstanding? She needed a strategy, a way to bridge the gap between her creative explosion and their expectations. Perhaps her art could serve as a dialogue, a means to open the door for explanation before the unveiling. As new ideas blossomed in her mind, Emma felt something shift. No longer was she an artist on the defensive. She was a voice poised to be heard. The exhibition now symbolized more than just a showcase of her work. It was an opportunity to define herself in a world clamoring for conformity. Tension mixed with excitement as she prepared herself for what lay ahead. Breaking free from the chains of the past would require more than art. It would take courage, openness, and perhaps a degree of reconciliation. But most importantly, she realized it was about claiming her narrative on her own terms. With a fresh resolve, Emma stepped back from her work to consider her next move. The time had come to face the music, herself, her art, her family. The fork in the road loomed ever closer, and she was closer than ever to the moments that would define her path forward. And in that charged atmosphere, as the shadows of doubt lingered just outside her periphery, Emma's heartbeat thrummed louder, pushing her closer to an unforeseen truth. Would this journey synchronize with the visions in her heart, or would the realities of her family's expectations eclipse the story she stood ready to tell? Emma stared at the message from her parents, willing the anxiety in her chest to dissipate. When? It had been a simple inquiry, yet beneath it lay a chasm of potential misunderstanding. As she blinked at her phone, she realized that the mere act of reaching out was a step into unknown territory, her courage brushing against the frail edges of doubt. This was the moment she'd been preparing for, a confrontation between her burgeoning identity as an artist and the expectations imposed upon her since childhood. What would it reveal? More importantly, was she ready to uncover it? The stakes felt daunting. Revealing her art meant exposing the depths of her feelings and experiences that she had tucked away for far too long. With shaky hands, Emma pulled out her sketchbook, flipping to a blank page. She needed a plan, something to guide her through this fragile interaction with her parents. The blank canvas before her mirrored her unease. Her mind swirled with questions. Should she focus on the art, or should she emphasize her journey? Her instinct was to lay bare the emotional turmoil that had propelled her work, yet she feared their reactions could shatter her intentions. In that uncertain moment, an idea struck. What if she created a piece specifically for this conversation? A canvas that captured the essence of their relationship, a narrative they could interpret together. By channeling her reflections into her artwork, she could foster dialogue instead of conflict. This would be her bridge to them, a way to summon their empathy before the exhibit. She set to work, each brushstroke a cathartic release of years of pent-up emotions. Colors blended and clashed, mirroring the discord between her expectations and those of her family. Deep blues represented the sorrow of unspoken words, while vibrant yellows signified the hope she clung to. As the layers unfolded, so did her revelations. She realized that this piece was not solely about confrontation. It was about transcending the narratives that had kept her confined. In the midst of this creative burst, a familiar notification broke the silence. A new message from her mother. "Can we meet tomorrow?" The urgency in it left no room for hesitation, and the pressure intensified. Emma's heart raced. Tomorrow? Would she have enough time to truly prepare? With a resolve she hadn't felt before, she quickly typed back, "Yes, I have something important to share." After sending the message, a weight began to lift, replaced by an ambitious fervor. Now this was a catalyst for change. She could feel the trajectory of her journey shifting, no longer rooted in uncertainty. Each stroke of her brush forged an inevitable reality. As she stepped back to finalize her painting, she perceived a strange sensation wash over her. Fear intertwined with exhilaration. This experiment of pouring her truths onto the canvas was liberating. But alongside the thrill of self-expression was a constant reminder of the risk involved. What if, despite her best efforts, her parents failed to grasp the depths of what she was trying to convey? The possibility of their dismissal loomed like a shadow. Yet, she couldn't dwell in that anxiety. She'd spent too long trapped by indecision and fear of disapproval. This was her chance to articulate her narrative, to seek connection rather than validation. It became clear that, regardless of their initial reactions, her willingness to confront was part of her growth. If they met her honesty with ridicule, she would still stand grounded in her truth. The night deepened, and as her brush met the canvas for the final touches, Emma felt a profound sense of clarity wash over her. She would enter this next phase of her life with both her vulnerability and strength fully on display. As she admired her creation, she whispered to herself, "This is who I am." The journey ahead would be challenging, but no matter the outcome, embracing her identity held the promise of liberation. Tomorrow would be the true test, a moment of confrontation, not just with her family, but with her understanding of self in relation to them. And as she turned off the lights in her studio, she marveled at the peculiar sensation of stepping into the unknown. What would her family's reaction be when they beheld more than just paint? What truths would rise to the surface when she unveiled both her art and her heart? Would they embrace the fragments of her story, or would the chasm between them deepen into an insurmountable divide? The morning of their meeting arrived, illuminating Emma's studio in a soft golden light. The sight was familiar, yet everything felt new. Each painting now held a story that demanded to be heard.
As she prepared for the moment that might reshape her narrative, she cast apprehensive glances at the canvas showcasing her emotions, a declaration sculpted from the yearning to be understood. Emma's heart pounded as she framed her thoughts, the cacophony of memories merging with hope. Today was not solely about sharing her artwork, it was about reclaiming her voice. The journey had always felt precarious, a tightrope walk over expectation and self-assertion, but she learned each deliberate step carved out her path. She arrived at the small cafe where they had agreed to meet, the familiar trepidation fluttering in her stomach. Her mind raced, and with every ounce of her resolve, she grasped the urgency of her decision. The risks were real, but the potential for affirmation felt equally potent. Art, she had realized, was not just a series of strokes on a canvas. It was a dialogue, a platform for vulnerability that she longed to share. As her parents walked in, their faces edged with the blend of anticipation and skepticism, Emma swallowed hard. This was it. The moment she had envisioned was she would articulate her growth and aspirations. It was time for them to see the world through her eyes. "Emma," her mother said, taking a seat. There was that familiar tension, a subtle reminder of their past dynamics, but she couldn't let it snatch her focus. "You mentioned wanting to share something?" "Yes," Emma replied, letting her voice steady as it pierced the silence. "I have been doing a lot of thinking and creating." She gestured to the folder on her lap. Inside lay photographs of her artwork, a tangible representation of her transformed journey. "Creating," her father echoed, his brow furrowing. The subtle tone of disdain pricked at her resolve, but she pressed on. "I've rediscovered my passion for art, but more than that, I've been working on pieces that illustrate my experiences, my struggle between your expectations and who I genuinely am." Holding her composure, Emma revealed the photographs of her paintings one by one. Vibrant colors swirled with the intensity of her emotions, ambition intertwined with the deeper threads of disappointment. She watched their faces shift from skepticism to intrigue, a flicker of recognition igniting amidst their uncertainty. "This one speaks to the overwhelming pressure I felt," she explained, pointing to an expressive piece that depicted her parents' grasp, holding her back, while the vibrant world of creativity lay just beyond their grasp. "It's not just about my art, it's about the battles I faced trying to find my voice against the voices of doubt." The walls between them shifted slightly as silence enveloped the table. For the first time, Emma sensed they were genuinely absorbing her perspective, no longer shrouded in judgment. Her mother's eyes softened, tracing the colors and expressions that captured her daughter's struggles. "I didn't realize your art was a reflection of this," she began tentatively, her voice cracking. "I need you to understand," Emma interjected, finding the courage that had begun to bloom within her. "This isn't about rejecting you, it's about embracing me. I want to show you who I've become through my art, not just to seek approval, but to connect with the parts of me you might not know." They shared an unspoken moment, and she could see the wheels turning inside their heads. Apprehension faded into lent acceptance, the recognition that, perhaps, their daughter was redefining success in her own terms. "Emma," her father finally said, his voice steady but softer than she remembered, "we thought we were preparing you for something different. You've always been talented, but I see your passion, your individuality in these pieces." It was a sliver of validation, yet it felt monumental. The weight of years spent seeking their approval began to lift as her mother reached across the table, clasping Emma's hand. "I'm sorry if we've made you feel like you needed to hide," her mother said, eyes gleaming with tears. "Your happiness and fulfillment should matter more than trying to fit a mold. We should have trusted your path." Emma was overwhelmed, a whirlwind of emotions swirling inside her as she gripped her mother's hand. They weren't quite there yet. There were still fragilities to address and histories to reconcile, but she felt a window of opportunity crack open. "I'm still learning who I am, and it's been a long journey," Emma confessed, her heart swelling with hope. "Ultimately, I choose to define my success. Art has allowed me to find myself at last, and I hope you can embrace this part of me." Tears streamed down her face, yet there was a resolve emerging through the release of vulnerability. The edges of her fears were softening against the canvas of her truth, and she observed her parents, who reflected back the essence of acceptance. "I'd like for you both to be at my exhibition," she added, her voice steady for the first time. "I want to show you what I've been working on. I want you to experience this part of me." The silence that followed was electrifying, charged with potential. The weight of their past distance began to shift, revealing tangible paths toward reconciliation. Today, in the heart of her truth, Emma no longer felt like a disappointment caught in the fray of expectations, but an artist ready to define success and her life on her own terms. As they leaned into one another's evolving landscapes, a sense of liberation enveloped the trio. Emma felt the transformative power of authenticity settle warmly within her heart. The door to acceptance had begun to ajar. Once tangled connections transformed into tender threads of understanding. And thus, in the delicate dance of vulnerability, Emma emerged on the threshold of a new chapter, one painted with the vibrant hues of personal achievement and a commitment to reclaiming her storytelling. Her journey would continue, but today, she had made profound strides not just in her art, but in her relationship with both herself and the family she had sought to connect with. Now was her moment, a canvas awaiting bold strokes, a narrative waiting to be celebrated. And while uncertainty would continue to beckon, she was ready to embrace the complexities ahead. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It really makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.